Welcome, everyone. I'm an Assistant Dean of Graduate Studies. Thank you for joining us for the John J. Sullivan Professional Development Award recipient presentations. After retirement, John J. Sullivan worked as a visiting senior scientist of nanotechnology at CNSE. He received bachelor's and master's degrees in physics from Northeastern University. He was a U.S. Army veteran and spent 30 years at MKS Instruments in Andover, Massachusetts. While at MKS, he was a great mentor to CNSE students and staff. He retired as Vice President of Marketing at MKS in 2000 after a 30-year career there. John J. Sullivan passed away in January 2010. John was committed to CNSE's growth as a world-class research and educational institution and established that legacy by helping CNSE create a scholarship to advance that goal. In the past, the award was given to one graduate student annually and was primarily used to support research. Beginning in 2018, the Office of Graduate Studies expanded the potential impact of the award to allow for more students to benefit from this scholarship. The John J. Sullivan Professional Development Award is bestowed to graduate students to further enable experiential and scholarly opportunities within nanotechnology or related fields during their studies. Typically, awards are approximately $2,000, and they are intended to offset the cost of experiential and scholarly opportunities such as training events and programs, research experience. These are academic and within industry, domestic and international, patent development, workshop travel or attendance, conference travel or registration. Recipients of the John J. Sullivan Fellowship will present their experiences shortly. We are delighted to recognize the John J. Sullivan Professional Development Award recipients, and we'll begin with Yamini Kumaran.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone can hear me. So the work which I presented in the 242nd easiest meeting was engineering active sites using transition metal as noble metal-free bifunctional electrodes for water splitting. And my advisors are Professor Harry and Professor Yumian. So the meeting was happening in Atlanta, in Georgia. It happened on October 9 to 13, 2022. The major highlights of the meeting was I was able to attend the talk of a Nobel laureate M. Stanley Whittingham, and we also had an interactive and very interesting Q&A session with students. And it was a pretty grand meeting. There was award ceremony for the longtime ECS members, accomplishments of ECS members after the pandemic. I could also attend several talks on my field, hydrogen energy, ranging from electrolyzer, fuel cells to catalyst layers. I could meet with several experts from national laboratories, DOE and NREL. And I also participated in career fair and had socialized with other peer students who were working on the same field. So the third day of the meeting, I was able to do a poster presentation. So this is the draft, this is the poster which I presented. So I would just like to give an overview of my work. The focus of my work was mainly to decrease the cost of the materials used to prepare the electrocatalyst, which can be used as the electrolyzer, and also increase the efficiency. So I used cost-effective transition metals, and nanomorphological structures were deposited using hydrothermal synthesis and magnetron sputtering. So XRD confirmed the materials being deposited. And to find the efficiency of the electrocatalysts which have been deposited, the potentiostat was used, and the efficiency of the cathodic reaction, which is hydrogen evolution reaction, was found to be very low of 14 millivolt, which is best efficiency compared to other literature works. So to check its bifunctionality, I also checked the same electrocatalyst for the anodic reaction, which is oxygen evolution reaction. Even the catalyst showed better performance to the anodic reaction, and also to check whether the catalytic performance is stable or not, chronoamperometry was used for both the half cell reaction, and also overall electrolysis was performed in a setup like this, shown in the picture. And we could see 1.65 volt is required to achieve to initiate the reaction. So basically, we just needed 320 millivolt of over potential overall to initiate the reaction, which is very low compared to other commercially available electrocatalysts. With that, I would like to acknowledge my advisors, metrology experts, and Office of Graduate Studies and Sun Fellowship, who is funding my research work. And I would like to thank the John J. Sullivan Award committee members to have been helping me to present this work in this 242nd AVS meeting. I got my professional headshot done during my conference during the meeting hours. And I also had a great nightlife after my meeting hours. So I'm really grateful for receiving this John J. Sullivan Award. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Bharti Sangwan. I'm a PhD second year student working with Professor Robert Brainard. So today I want to talk about the John J. Sullivan Professional Development Award, which I received this spring. So this award is mainly for the experiential and scholarly opportunities, that is training, events and programs, research experience, patent development, workshop, travel attendance, and conference travel. So I used this Sullivan Professional Development Award money for my conference travel. Next slide, please. Next, yeah. So I went to the SPY Advanced Lithography and Patterning in which was held in San Jose, California, USA, for a week, that is 26 February to 2nd of March. So I used that money to attend this conference. So this conference was organized by several big companies like Canon, DuPont, Intel, Meta, Lam Research, and you can see in the slide there are several companies there. So during the conference there was a direct chance for me to meet all these companies' members and other scientists working in this company. Next slide. Yes, so in these few slides, I will share my experiences which I got. So for the first day of the conference, there was a plenary session by some expert in the field. So it was a great chance to hear all of the eminent scientists in the field. So before it, I was just reading the book articles, book chapters of these scientists. But during this conference, I really got a chance to hear those scientists in person. So it was a very great experience for me to attend their talks. Next slide. So apart from the plenary talks, there was exhibition during the conference, that is Advanced Lithography and Patterning exhibition, in which there was a connection with companies and suppliers, which will move our research forward. So I got a direct chance to meet the company's member and also to meet the suppliers of the company. So it helped me a lot. So I was in between a thing in my research that I was not sure how to do that, how I can measure those things. And I was not sure about the parameters. So during this exhibition, I met with the Canon company people, where I shared my problems, like I'm stuck in these things, whether you can provide me any solution or whether you can tell me which tool I should use. So they clearly explained me what should I do or what should I not do. So for me during this exhibition, it was very great thing to meet these, and it solved my problem a lot. Next slide. So in this slide, I will talk about the woman which is working in this advanced lithography field. So as I read things like the patterning things, I heard and I studied that there are very less number of women working in this field. But when I went there, I saw that there are few eminent women working in this field as an eminent scientist. So it was very proud moment for me to see these women, like those are very experienced, and they explained their work, their expertise very well. So it was very good for me to attend their talks. So I will say that women are not behind the men, so they can work in every field they want. Next slide. So apart from these attendees, so one of our group member, Jacob Sitterly, presented his work in which I was the co-author. So I helped Jacob Sitterly to build the PowerPoint and presented the oral presentation during this conference. Next, that is switching the solubility of the polymers using intermolecular reactions and diffusion of small molecules. Next slide. Apart from that oral presentation, there was a poster presentation in which me and Moira helped Jacob to explain his poster. The poster was manipulation of the polymer solubility, cross-linking thermal activation, and variable temperature. As I was the co-author, so I will not explain everything in detail. So I think Jacob is also going to present his work. So he will explain more about his work. Next slide. So I would like to thank John J. Sullivan Award Committee for giving me this award so that I could attend the conference, and I got a very good experience in attending it. And I would like to thank Suni Poli and my advisor, Professor Robert Brainerd, who encouraged me to apply for this Sullivan Award, and my lab members who support me.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving us the time to discuss our small trips that has been very, very fruitful. So my name is Amir. I work with Professor Harry Stadriadis. And today I'm here to tell you about my trip to the Electrochemical Society meeting or conference number 242. So a little background of our group. I'm a PhD candidate in the energy storage group. Our fields of interest are mostly lithium-ion battery, electric vehicles, materials fabrications, and electrochemical testing. Here in this picture, we have the group members. And by the way, this is the same conference that Yamani attended, and she was discussing it earlier. So at the same time, we have so many collaborations with industry partners. Currently, we are working with BMW project, with BMW. And our work focuses mostly on developing new electrode materials for energy storage and testing their performances. So naturally, ECS was a great opportunity for us to showcase our work and to do further professional development that could be helpful for our group or for our research. So the 242 meeting was held in Atlanta, in Georgia. This was from October 9th to October 13th. Many researchers and experts in the electrochemical field happened to be there, and we got to make connections and communications with a lot of people. And our work was presented on October 12th. The title of the work is the porous LLZO anode host structures for lithium metal batteries. And this work has been a collaboration between many members of the group as well as people from the industry. I'm not going to get into much details of the work, but as a brief summary, the goal is to make a new electrode material, porous electrode material that promotes safer and more capable batteries. So in our work, we showcase that the technique that we use, which is known as electrospinning, shown here in the image. And through that method, we were able to produce substrates, porous substrates that could be potentially useful for the battery materials. Here we can just see an SEM image or an image of these substrates, of a sample of these substrates. And furthermore, we do material characterization on the different tools like XRDs, or sometimes we do electrochemical impedance spectroscopy or resistance measurements. So we had a chance to discuss our methods, our results, and we grabbed a lot of attention from the audience that we were working on the same projects as well, or something similar. So as I said, like, we had a chance to discuss our methods, our approaches. A lot of people from the industry are working the same materials and were able to give me some insights or some expectations or some leads on some stuff that I can use. One major problem I was facing before going to the conference is that handling or storing the material was a big problem for me. And I got a chance to speak with one of the scholars in Canada from Waterloo, I guess. And they were doing special studies on storing these materials, and they were able to advise me on better techniques and methods. Also, we had so many representatives from the industry where they showcased a lot of new testing methods. Here in this image here, this was very interesting. This professor here, or doctor, I don't remember, he's a CEO of a company, and he just made a new technique of deposition and in situ experimentation on the batteries as you are building them or as you're putting them together. And also there was a lot of chance to talk to a lot of people from the that work in simulations and produce softwares and give us a lot of links and insight for software trainings. So it was very, very helpful for sure. And eventually, with all that being said, I would like to thank our group, Professor Harris Research Group, our sponsors and collaborators, of course, the event organizers, and in the end, special thanks to John J. Sullivan Award for making this trip possible. So thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moira Nilakshan. For those who don't know me, I am a second-year graduate student at the Nanoscale Science Consulate. I'm under the advisement of Professor Robert Brainerd. I'm going to present my experience at the SPI Advanced Lithography and Patterning Conference, which occurred from 28th of February until 2nd March at San Jose, California. First, I want to thank John J. Sullivan and the award committee for granting me the opportunity to attend and participate in my first ever conference. So SPI is a worldwide association focused on optics and photonics. And I was amazed to see a lot of people with different area of expertise attending and giving their talks, especially about EUV lithography. Attending this conference opened my eyes to the world of EUV photolithography, in which our group has been working for many years. And also, this conference gave me a chance of meeting professionals from various fields, including engineers, scientists, and students, and also business people. I have attended many talks at the conference, but the one I found which was most interesting is the talk from Lamb Research about dry development process. I work only with wet development process in the lab, and I thought that is the only development process that exists, but I learned that dry development is using reactive gas instead of a solvent to selectively remove the exposed or unexposed part of the resist based on whether it's a positive or negative tone resist, and also the importance of the dry development. So it can be used for reducing the pattern collapse and enhances the ability to print features at higher aspect ratio. Sorry. Second day, we, along with the talks, we had a chance to meet different women. We had a women in optics networking lunch. So I got a chance to meet different women who is working in the industry. So compared to men, it is less, but by talking to these people, Louisa Anujadi Silva from Lam Research and Elizabeth from SLAC National Laboratories, I learned that how can we as a women can stand up in our field by overcoming the problems that we can able to face during our career. It was a great opportunity for me. And on the third day, of course, our group member, Jacob Sidley, presented the work. I worked a part on that project. So I was one of the co-authors. So we were there to support him. And also at the end of the presentation, we were able to meet some of Professor Brainerd's past PhD students and also our former group members. It was great. And the last thing, Jacob Sidley, he presented a poster set on the poster session. So we were there helping him out. And also I got a chance to attend many other posters from different people from different area of expertise. It was a very wonderful experience. And also I got a chance to explain that poster to a person to when Jacob was has to go to grab his drink. And finally, of course, we had a chance after our conference to go out for sightseeing. Me and Bharti went out there. Of course, this won't be covered in the award, but if not for the conference, if not, we have been there, we haven't had the chance. So that's all about my presentation. And again, I thank John J. Sullivan Award for giving me this opportunity to attend the conference and having a great experience of my life. And I thank my Professor Robert Brainerd for encouraging me to apply for this award and my group members for supporting me. Thank you very much for listening to me.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming and also giving us the time to present our current experience with the John Sullivan Award Fellowship. So I'm Avinash Londe. I work in Dr. Boyvian's lab and I'm a PhD student in his lab. So I got the John Sullivan Award in November last year, and I used it to go to a protein phosphatase meeting in 2023. So to give you a background of who I am, so I have a Bachelor's of Science and Master's in virology from University of Pune, and I also have a Master's in molecular biomedicine from University of Madrid. Currently, I'm a 7th year PhD student in Dr. Boyvian's lab. I joined in fall 2016 for a PhD in nanobioscience, and I will be graduating at the end of the summer. So I used this John Sullivan Award to go to a meeting called FASEB, protein phosphatase meeting, which is one of the most important meeting in the field of phosphatases, and it's also actually one of the most secluded meeting that everyone comes from our field. So we get to speak to almost every scientist that works in our field, and it was a really great experience that I got to be there, which I did actually get the same award a couple of years back, but because of COVID, I couldn't go. So it was really nice to go and meet all the people who works in phosphatases and the regulation of phosphatase in the cells. Also there I got to meet one of the professor who I'm going to work with in Australia after my PhD. So that actually really helped me going there. And I was selected for this conference to present a poster, which I presented based on my first paper that I published on the PTP1B, which is a phosphatase that we work on. And we showed in that paper that how this PTP1B is regulated by another protein that is present in the cell and allows it to let the cell signaling go on, and how that protein inactivates the PTP1B for a short period of time. So I really appreciate the support from SUNY Poly and also John Sullivan family for giving me the opportunity to share my research with like most prestigious minds in the biochemistry field. So and thank you again for your attention.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Dolan, and I'm here to tell you about my use of the John J. Sullivan Award to attend my first international conference. And this was an international conference on environmental mutagens. So my research primarily focuses on the interaction of genetics and genomics and diet. And then diet is one of the environmental factors that can have an effect on our health. My research is primarily looking at the relationship between genetics, diet, and cancer. So I attended the 13th International Conference on Environmental Mutagens. This was held in Ottawa in August, at the end of August last year. And the focus of this conference was maintaining genomic health in a changing world. So this is fits really well with my project because one of the focuses that a lot of people were pushing is working with dealing with non-animal models. And for my research, I'm using yeast. So my project focuses on using yeast and looking at the entire collection of single gene knockouts in yeast and finding a way to humanize that by adding human metabolic proteins. And then I'll take that collection of yeast, of single gene knockout yeast, expose it to a dietary carcinogen called IQ, or a methanol solvent control. And then after 10 generations, 10 doubling times, I'll pull out all of the DNA. And because all of these single gene knockouts are barcoded with DNA barcode, I can use next-gen sequencing to determine the abundance of each strain in my pooled collection at the end of the experiment. So the way this would work would be if we can see these strains over here on the right. In my humanized sample, we see this pink strain has been depleted massively after treatment with IQ. So after some data analysis and bioinformatics software, I'm able to get something that looks like this. So I have over here over 1,100 genes that have some sort of effect. So strains that were knocked out for genes, conferring some sort of resistance somehow to IQ. 1,100 genes is a lot to worry about. So I narrowed it down to only the genes that showed sensitivity at multiple concentrations of IQ, and that narrowed it down to 412. These 412 I can split up into 3 main clusters. In blue, the DNA damage repair and DNA damage tolerance cluster. In green, the ribosomal and protein translation cluster, and in orange, the nitrogen metabolism culture. So I'll take that data and to verify that these are actually pathways that confer resistance to IQ, I did some validation. And here's just a very small subset, 1 gene from each of those clusters compared to the wild type. And I validated with a couple of different methods. In the top, we have growth curves. So this is comparing what happens to the strain when grown in the presence of IQ, methanol in red, or in black without treatment. So this cluster ALT1 was in the nitrogen metabolism cluster. It's involved in alanine synthesis. And you can see it's very sensitive at both concentrations of IQ. It doesn't grow nearly as well as the untreated one, or the methanol treated one. The RPL33B is part of that ribosomal cluster, and we don't see a whole lot of difference with this method of validation. And with the MPH1, we only see any real difference with this higher concentration of IQ. The other method we used was competitive growth. So that's combining the strain of interest with a GFP wild type strain. So a strain that's not deficient in any method of any pathways here. And if we combine in a specific ratio, in this case, I used about 10%. As the yeast grows, the GFP, which is not sensitive to IQ, the GFP strain will probably outgrow any sensitive strains. So we saw that was the case certainly with ALT1 and RPL33B, and we saw it to a lesser extent with the MPH1. So I was able to share this in a poster at the ICEM 2022 meeting in Ottawa. And again, like I said, this was my first international conference, and I got some great feedback when I presented my poster, and I was able to not only talk to people who are also pushing for working with non-animal models, but also people who were actually working with yeast, which was not a very common model to be using in this scenario. But I want to thank you for the opportunity to present at this meeting, and thank you for the John J. Sullivan Professional Development Award.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Sitterly, and I'm a PhD candidate here at the Colleges of Nanoscale Science and Engineering, of course. But just to give a little bit of background about myself first, I'm originally from upstate New York in the Adirondacks, a little town called Northville on the Great Sagadaga Lake. And I got my bachelor's degree in nanoscale engineering from CNSE in 2018. But currently, I'm a fifth-year PhD candidate in Dr. Brainerd's group, and I'm finishing up my PhD in solubility, reactivity, and diffusion in polymeric bilayer films. But like a few of the other students you heard from here, I used the Sullivan Professional Development Award to attend the SPI Advanced Lithography Conference in San Jose, California, where it was a great opportunity to hear from some of these industry-leading professionals again and hear about some of the developments in the field, like the dry development that was mentioned earlier, and some of the other kind of novel approaches that are being used to improve lithography. Additionally, I was able to present an oral talk and a poster, and it was my first time ever giving an oral talk at a conference of this scale, and was certainly a bit intimidating. But I gave my 20-minute talk to about 200 people on switching the solubility of polymers using intermolecular reactions and diffusion of small molecules. And while out at the conference, I was also able to meet several of previous students from CNSE, including some of the previous graduate students from Dr. Brainerd's group that you can see in this picture, as well as some of the current employees, like some of the postdocs in our lab, as well as the current graduate students. Beyond the oral talk that I gave, I was also able to present this poster where I got quite a few interesting questions from different professionals that gave me a little bit of a different understanding on how I was thinking about some of the chemical reactions that were occurring within our process, where overall we were studying the deep protection of esters that are used within photoresist, which are used in all of our microelectronic devices. And I'd be happy to talk more with anybody about some of the specific work that I presented at the conference. But overall, I'd really like to just thank the Sullivan Professional Development Award for allowing me to attend the conference and present this work, hear back from many industry professionals, and even have a few opportunities for options after I graduate from this specific conference. So thank the Sullivan Professional Development Award.
Yeah, Stephen Rose. Actually, my name is Chris Rose. Stephen's my first formal name. No one calls me that, but I'm a PhD student here at SUNY Poly. I work in Dr. Z's lab, and we provide the bioengineering part of the work that's done in the salivary gland research group at Albany. And I applied to the John J. Sullivan Award and was graciously given the opportunity to attend the Keystone Conference in Banff Springs, Alberta, which was in March. It's really the most beautiful landscape I've ever seen in my life. And the topic of the conference was fibrosis pathogenesis and resolutions from mechanisms to therapies. It was also held alongside a smaller conference, which was also a Keystone Conference that's centered on fibrosis in the liver. And so this is very relevant to my work because in Dr. Z's lab, I've been working on the development of a salivary gland fibrosis model, which I'll talk more about as I go through these slides. Let me move forward here. So I took a bunch of pictures because I was really just overwhelmed by this place. It's a very old hotel. It was built in the Canadian Rockies to encourage tourism in the 1800s. It's haunted, supposedly. It's been around for a long time. It was burned down and rebuilt. And it's just the architecture is amazing. Everything about it was overwhelming. So I'll never forget the John J. Sullivan people for giving me the opportunity to go to such an amazing place and meet so many amazing people, because I really met a lot of amazing people at the conference, which I'll go into more as we move along here. So I feel like I've overloaded you with great pictures of the place, but you know, they had to be taken and they had to be shared because it was really quite an amazing facet of the conference. They give you about 4 hours every day to, you know, really enjoy the environment outside of the conference, and I try to take full advantage of that. So I couldn't take a lot of photos at the conference itself because they don't allow that, but in my spare time, I saw a lot of incredible wildlife. There are mountain lions and wolves on the golf course. And I was selected to do a poster presentation, which was done on most nights at the conference. And so I presented my work in that context. And so what I talked about was my work toward the development of a 3D model of radiation-induced salivary gland fibrosis, and how we optimized the spheroids. We're developing spheroids. So those are, I know most of you guys aren't really in the biology side. So spheroids are a method of the three-dimensional culture, basically. And to develop this, these spheroids, they had to have a lot of kind of special qualities that other spheroids don't have. Like they had to be very small, which makes them difficult to handle. And but it also makes them more reflective of salivary gland fibrosis rather than, say, for example, tumor fibrosis or tumor physiology. So I explained all these different things that I did, which involved optimizing the spheroids, doing growth studies, determining the perfect seeding density, selecting the right kinds of cells. And then once all that was done, you know, I started these radiation studies where we're looking at senescence, apoptosis, necrosis, DNA damage, and then going a step forward to where we are now, where we're actually looking at this model of spheroid fibrosis, which reflects what goes on in the salivary gland when people are subjected to head and neck cancer radiation. We're looking at different conditions involving senescence, which is senescent cells appear in the tissues of older people, and they have a significant effect on how the wound healing environment works. It doesn't work as well when you have a lot of senescent cells present. So a lot of my work is being built around that idea. And what we're looking to find out is if we can delete or suppress the effect of senescent cells in wound healing environment, how might that facilitate other things like transplanting mesenchymal stem cells into a wound site. And also this model has the potential to be used for testing cell therapies and drug testing as it, gets further developed, and it's moving along now. I'm hoping to have everything wrapped up around December. So the conference was spectacular. I met a lot of people that I had read about in the many papers I've read over the last 2 years. I met people from key companies that I'm interested in working for, in particular in Spiro and PharmaNest, is a company that does digital histology with spheroids, and Spiro is the biggest spheroid company in the world. They've done tremendous work in the area of liver fibrosis, and I just met a tremendous number of people. I got some job offers, just made some connections that I have still going, and I expect that it could have a significant impact on my future. And none of that would have been possible had I not been a recipient of this award. And so I'm grateful to the committee who distributed the reward and selected me as an individual worthy of receiving it. And really, there's not much more I could say beyond that. I'm grateful I received the award. I got a lot out of the experience. I also picked up a lot of insights that have allowed me to kind of take my work to the next level also. So I think it was time and resources well spent, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thanks. So as Krista said, my name is Ben McEwen, and using the John J. Sullivan Grant Award, I was able to publish a paper entitled MOCVD Growth and Characterization of Beryllium-Doped GAN, Open Access, which allows it to have a much greater reach than otherwise would be possible. So here's just a quick summary of the work published in the paper. By way of a bit of background, P-type doping in 3-nitrides is famously difficult because magnesium, which is the only viable acceptor currently in GAN and AlGAN, is actually a very deep acceptor, which leads to very poor activation efficiency, less than 10%, and therefore low free hole concentration. However, beryllium has been suggested as a potential alternative shallow acceptor in 3-nitrides, specifically GAN, due to its predicted lower activation energy than magnesium. However, to this point, there's only been one prior report of specifically MOCVD grown beryllium-doped GAN, leaving a pretty large gap in the research to date. So to that end, we grew using MOCVD, beryllium-doped GAN, using a variety of conditions. Specifically here, we have a selection of beryllium acetylastenate flows. That's the beryllium precursor. As you can see in this PL plot, we found that all of the material showed a UVL band at 3.38 EV, which is indicative of a shallow beryllium acceptor level 113 MeV above the GAN valence band max, which is shallower than any other acceptor level. Additionally, we found we used SIMS to measure the total concentration of beryllium, and by tuning the growth conditions, we were able to achieve a stable beryllium incorporation and smooth surface morphology, which is quite exciting and very promising for the future of conductive P-type material in GAN. So here is just the paper itself that was published in ACS Applied Electronic Materials. Again, with the help of the John J. Sullivan grant, I was able to publish the first systematic study of growth conditions for MOCVD grown beryllium-doped GAN, and I was able to publish that open access, which of course ensures a much greater reach to this research. And in the last few months, we've already received 2 citations off of this work. So I would very much like to thank the Sullivan family for the opportunity to share this work with a much broader audience than would otherwise be possible. And this work is currently available, if anyone would like to read it, at ACS Applied Electronic Materials. So thank you very much.
Great. So hi, everyone. My name is Emma Rocco, and today I'll be presenting my John J. Sullivan Award, in which I presented work on novel selective area grown gallium and nitrogen polar PGAN photocathodes. So I received the John J. Sullivan Award, and that provided the opportunity to attend and present at the International Workshop on Nitride Semiconductors. And this is one of the largest conferences on nitride semiconductors specifically, and focuses on all areas of nitrides from growth, characterization, devices, and novel structures. This conference took place in Berlin, Germany in October of this past year, 2022. And the conference included over 800 scientists from 32 countries that were in attendance. The work that I presented at this conference focused on improving the efficiency of 3-nitride photocathode detectors. These are detectors that absorb incident light and emit photoexcited electrons. And 3-nitride photocathodes require that you have a p-type film, typically using magnesium as a dopant source, as that's the most mature dopant in the nitride material system. Previously, we've shown that photocathode structures grown on nitrogen polar GaN templates with a high density of these hexagonal helic features results in a very high quantum efficiency for the photocathode devices compared to a sample that had very few of these helic structures. And we found by using atom probe tomography that the magnesium dopants incorporate more efficiently within the semipolar facets of these hexagonal helic structures, leading to more uniform magnesium distribution and thus improved optical and electrical properties of the film. So with that background knowledge, I presented work on the hypothesis that magnesium incorporation would be improved in semipolar planes along the gallium polar direction, just as we had seen along the nitrogen polar direction. And to do this, I needed to grow microstructures on both gallium and nitrogen polar direction materials. And to do that, I used a selective area growth technique in which a gallium nitride template was patterned with a mask material. And then when growth takes place, it only grows out of the mask openings. Following the formation of these microstructures, then magnesium doped film is grown over top. So the first result that I presented in my poster was selective area growth of both gallium and nitrogen polar microstructures. And this was the first report of stabilized semipolar facets for nitrogen polar selective area growth microstructures. We then went on to overgrow the magnesium doped film on both the gallium and the nitrogen polar microstructures. And we found that both nitrogen polar and gallium polar microstructures achieved similar quantum efficiencies when measuring their photocathode performance. And when looking at just the gallium polar microstructure compared to a planar counterpart, the gallium polar microstructure showed improved quantum efficiency over the planar film. And looking at a micro-PL spectra, we can see that in the areas of the microstructure semipolar facets of the gallium polar sample, we see improved UVL efficiency in the photoluminescence, which is suggestive of high p-type conductivity in those areas. And that work that I presented at the conference was awarded a Best Poster Presentation Award at this conference, which was really fantastic for my research output as well as for CNSE as a whole to be acknowledged for that. And while at the conference, I got to talk to many researchers from all over the world, including researchers from the Naval Research Laboratory, which led to me applying for the National Research Council Fellowship following my graduation, and I have received that award. And so being able to attend and present at this conference significantly impacted my career going forward. So I just like to say thank you to the Sullivan family and to everybody at CNSC that made this experience possible.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vincent Myers. I'm in the same lab as Ben and Emma, and I also received the John Sullivan Professional Development Award in 2022, also to attend the International Workshop on Nitride Semiconductors in Berlin. Okay, so the conference itself really served as an amazing way to see what the research problems are that the nitride community is focusing on, and a lot of their work overlapped with my work on gallium nitride. It was great to see how different groups are often bringing their very different group research capabilities to focus on pretty similar set of problems. So like Emma mentioned, there was more than 800 researchers present from all over the world, and I got the chance to network with a lot of these folks throughout the conference. There were a lot of research from the US Naval Research Lab who were working on very similar topics to my studies of magnesium doping and gallium nitride. By coincidence, two of the members of my PhD thesis committee were even there and got to see my talk. I also got the chance to meet another researcher at the Heteroepitaxy Research Lab at the University of Côte d'Azur in France, who works on electron microscopy. And this led to a collaboration I'm working on right now, where he's going to be a co-author on publication manuscript that I'm working on. So the research I presented at the conference focused on implanted p-type dopants in GaN used for power electronics. The temperature required for this p-type activation of implanted GaN is very high, about 2/3 of the melting temperature of the material. So diffusion of that magnesium implanted dopant can occur and potentially degrade the performance of devices with implanted regions that are needed for GaN power electronics. So I studied this diffusion process by implanting GaN into magnesium and annealing it with either a moderate temperature anneal, an ultra high temperature anneal, or by a combination of the two, and then studied the diffusion behavior of magnesium using SIMS here at CNSE. And I found that this use of a pre-anneal strongly affects the diffusion of magnesium into the material. I then analyzed the diffusion behavior with a conventional Gaussian diffusion analysis, as well as with a much less common Boltzmann-Metano approach. The Boltzmann-Metano approach, as I showed in the talk in Berlin, explains the diffusion of magnesium better than the more conventional analysis. I also find that magnesium redistribution can be suppressed by performing two anneals successively, and show that this method holds really a lot of promise for improving future power electronic device performance. This research was funded by the Department of Energy's Advanced Research Projects Agency, and once again, many thanks to the Sullivan family's scholarship, enabling me to present it in Berlin.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Rubabume, and I'm a graduate student in the lab of Dr. Sergei Oktябрьский, and the John J. Sullivan Award gave me an opportunity to present my work on phase change memory at the 53rd IEEE Semiconductor Interface Specialist Conference, which was held in San Diego, California from December 7th to 10th. Here's just an outline of the talk. I'll give an introduction of what the IEEE SISC is and background on PCM, and then the work that I presented at the conference, and then summarizing by the experience from the conference. So IEEE SISC is basically held every year at the same location in San Diego, California. And it's an international conference. So people from different industry, different universities from all over the world attend this conference. And this is right after the conference held IEDM. And it's basically an opportunity for material scientists, nanotechnology, solid state physicists, device engineers to basically get together and present a contributor talk. And they also have invited speakers and also a Wednesday tutorial lecture that covers a variety of topics on 2D materials, non-volatile memory technology, and many other topics from characterization of material and the application of these material. And this opportunity led me to give a 15-minute contributed talk on phase change memory. So I'm going to go over just the background of what phase change memory is. So phase change memory is just a new non-volatile memory technology due to the high intensive data applications that we have nowadays that requires a high storage density, and due to the scaling reliability issues in the technology that we have, that requires a new technology that can be used as both memory and storage, and PCM or phase change memory is one of those technologies, which is essentially just based on a phase change material that undergoes a phase transformation from amorphous to crystalline by applying by the application of temperature or by applying electrical pulses. So essentially, if you start with an amorphous material, a crystalline material, and then you melt it to a melting temperature and then quench it quickly, you're left with a more you're left in a quenched state, amorphous state that has high resistance that can be used as logical zero. And the low resistive conductive state is the crystallization state, where you are melting close to the crystallization temperature, and that leads to a more ordered crystalline state that has that can be used as logical one. So phase change memory in general can be used as variety of applications in terms of neuromorphic applications, and any sort of analog memory and AI application. And currently most of the phase change material that has been studied in the industry is based on germanium antimony telluride, also called GST. And there are some challenges with GST that the industry is facing in terms of tellurium volatility, elemental redistribution, and low retention. This plot right here, I'm just comparing what our work is on, which is on group 3 antimony alloys, as compared to GST, which is based on tellurium, antimony, and germanium. And the reason why we want to study group 3 antimony alloys is because they have shown a promise toward faster speed, simpler binary chemistry, and tellurium free as well. So this led to my work on aluminum 40% sample. So first, before we continue this work, we started different composition of group 3 antimony alloys, and to figure out which composition we can incorporate into a template to study electrical characteristics for phase change memory. So the template that we use is a foundry template created at SUNY Poly, 300 millimeter foundry template. And we use different coupons and use molecular beam epitaxy to deposit our material, and then use wet and dry etching and optical lithography to complete a device that mimics a phase change material sandwiched between top and bottom electrode. And by applying electrical pulses to this individual cells, we can study the electrical performance and compare it with the mostly studied GST material for multi-level functionality of the cell. So here's just a quick introduction, summary of the aluminum 40% cell. So one of the key property of the phase change memory is that you can store multiple resistance values within one cell, which is a key property for neuromorphic training, for example, matrix multiplication. So there are two ways that you can obtain that multiple resistance states. Is if you start from the crystalline state, you can, by changing different pulse parameters, you can obtain different resistance states. And also by an accumulation property, applying the same pulse parameters multiple times, you can also change the resistance of that cell. And the aluminum 40% by far shows a resistance ratio between amorphous and crystalline state greater than 4,000, which is something that hasn't been shown for any other material so far. And also another property for multi-level switching is the resistance drift, which just means that if you're trying to use the cell as multi-level cell, the resistance tends to increase over time. And if you have a high increase in the resistance, you have an overlap between different resistance states, and then the multi-level switching is not as efficient. And in terms of comparing with the typical GST-based cell, aluminum 40% showed improved resistance drift as compared to a typical PCM cell. So this was just an overview of the talk that I gave at the IEEE SASC. So it was a 15-minute oral presentation, and I also attended a lot of different talks that were covering 2D materials and non-volatile memory, and also the questions from the audience after my talk gave me an idea of how we can proceed with our work, what are some of the things that we can improve to or incorporate in our research, and also engaged with researchers from IBM, Samsung, IMEC, and a lot of different graduate students from national and international universities. This was my favorite picture from the conference, but that doesn't represent how the whole experience was. And they also do a limerick contest to have the audience and students more engaged at this banquet, where I also participated, and I actually won the limerick contest, which was just supposed to be something funny related to the conference. So overall, this experience gave me the opportunity to give my oral talk for the first time in front of international and national researchers, and just also represent SUNY Poly at the conference in general. So I would like to thank the Sullivan family for giving me the opportunity to present my work. Thank you.
Like your limerick.
Oh, did you actually read it? I
Yes.
left it in there. Yeah, everyone loved it. It was actually they posted on their website too, and the conference is coming up in December again. And they do recommend a lot of university students to participate. And I saw that it's heavily nanotechnology based and semiconductor based, and not a lot of people from SUNY Poly actually attend. So I would think it would be a great opportunity for students from our school to definitely go there, because it is not just a professional development, but also interacting with researchers and industry partners in a more informal way as well.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. I am Tushar Mahajan. I am third year PhD candidate in Professor Serge Oktoberski's lab. I joined the program here at CNAC in fall 2020. I applied for John J. Sullivan Professional Award in fall 2021. The award allowed me to attend various conferences in the field of radiation detection technologies. And today I will share my experience attending CPAD 2022 workshop. For those who don't know about the CPAD workshops, CPAD stands for Coordinating Panel for Advanced Detectors. The CPAD was established to promote, coordinate, and assist in research and development of detectors needed for high-energy physics experiments. The workshop was divided into various sessions like plenary talks by keynote speakers, parallel talks given by researcher and graduate students, and early career plenary. Here is the summary of the work I presented in CPAD 2022. I won't go into much detail due to the time constraint, but in short, we work on indium arsenide quantum dots embedded in gallium arsenide, aluminum gallium arsenide superlattice structure. We have demonstrated optical properties like ultra-fast decay time, high light yield, and better radiation hardness, which are required in detection technologies for high-energy physics. In addition to that, we have also demonstrated detection of alpha particles and gamma rays using this material. Now let me share my experience attending the conference. It was a 4-day conference hosted in Stony Brook in Long Island, New York. It was my first in-person conference after the COVID time, so I was really excited about attending the conference. In the workshop, I engage in sessions like detector technologies, advancement in radiation detectors, and future needs in radiation detection technology. I gain insights into cutting-edge research happening in national labs from keynote speakers. The major highlight of my experience was representation of my own research and receiving feedback and suggestions from peers and experts in the field. During social gathering sessions, I networked with fellow attendees, including researchers, physicists, and industry professionals. The overall experience was really helpful for me to expand my knowledge of radiation detector technologies needed for future high energy physics. And this was all possible due to John J. Sullivan Professional Development Award. I would like to thank for giving me this award. With this award, I was able to attend Vienna Conference on Instrumentation in February 2022, in addition to CPAT 2022 workshop. And I will also be attending 2023 symposium on radiation measurement and application in 2 weeks from now. Attending these conferences would not have been possible without the generous support of John J. Sullivan Professional Development Award. And once again, I would like to extend my gratitude to the John J. Sullivan Professional Development Award Committee. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the John J. Sullivan Family and Foundation for allowing me to attend the RESIST working group in San Jose last April. So this is a working group that's ahead of the SPIE, or Society for Photo-Optical Instrumentation Engineer conference. It's held just the day before, and it's a more focused set of presentations with compared to the Advanced Litho and Patterning Conference overall. So I presented work on the effective visibility on EUV photoresist, stochastic defectivity. Below is a more detailed title, but basically we were trying to understand stochastic defects, which are not random and non-repeating isolated printing failures we see in EUV lithography. Basically, you can have photon stochastics or resist component uniformity, which is what we were investigating. Basically, does the distribution of the components in the resist affect failure rates? And simulations have shown that you can get failure regions in the ±7 sigma areas for a particular volume of resist. And also, we know that visibility differences exist based on chemically amplified resist components and the relative solubility. So what I presented on basically a phase diagram view of drying to try to understand if we get extra miscibility difference, basically energetic favorability of phase separation when we enter a two-phase region, because that's basically in spin coating. As you dry, you'll get rid of your solvent and only have polymer and other components left. So I related this to basically the distribution and how it could potentially broaden, as well as some standard thermodynamic phase diagram calculations based on Gibbs free energy of mixing, as well as interaction parameters. And then I use those interaction parameters to define our particular system, which I wrote some initial MATLAB code to try to understand where this exists. So there was some preliminary work, as well as some kind of experimental work to show that we do see phase segregation in these systems when we at our expected concentrations, and we can see physical differences in them. Okay, so this was done with Dembo and Brainerd. Also, I'd like to thank the students who helped out, Belle, Ashley, Nabiha, Sunny, and Max, and our sponsors, the Semiconductor Research Corporation and their liaisons. So in terms of professional development, I had the opportunity to present this, a more complete version of this, to a group of experts working in photoresist chemistry. That was for the Resist Working Group. And then for the main SBIE conference, there I attended 4 days of presentations from industry and academia leaders on the cutting edge litho and patterning related techniques. So EUV lithography, different types of patterning, metrology, etch methodology, things like that, that all support lithography and patterning. And also I had the opportunity to network with industry and academia people, and they actually had set up mentors for grad students to make introductions and new connections. So that was really nice to be able to meet a bunch of people and make their introduction. And I'd like to thank the John J. Sullivan family again for giving me this opportunity to attend this and present at the Resist Working Group.
Okay, well, thanks everyone. You did a great job, and it's always exciting to hear about what you did. And you know, those of us that get to see the application, it's really exciting to see how beneficial these experiences were for you. So thanks again for sharing today, and enjoy the rest of your day.